I just want to welcome everyone here today, friends, family, visitors, online worshipers, our brothers and sisters in Shodo. It's just wonderful to be together, and we want to extend a really warm welcome to everyone. Before we dive into our message today and into the Word, as we do every week, we're going to rehearse our habits. And I just want to take just a minute and talk about the purpose of these and the purpose of habits in general. Habits can really make our lives easier. And you may have heard the phrase, practice makes perfect. No, practice makes permanent. Whatever we practice is what is going to become our habits. So we need to be very, very intentional about which habits we are choosing and which habits we are developing. And the 5 habits that we now have, and Alex said, what? I thought there was 3. We keep adding to our habits. These are very intentional choices to help us reach our goals of being disciples and making disciples. So what is our first habit? Daily Bible reading. And we have a 1-year Bible that as a church family we have gone through. We are going to reach the end of that book this week on Tuesday. And our pastor, Pastor Joel, Joel and June are away visiting family, and we're so glad that they could be with family this week. Pastor Joel has, over this entire past year, chosen selections from our daily readings for each message each week. Today, since he's not here, don't tell him I'm going to go a little off script. But I'm just going to go a little bit ahead and a little bit behind. We're still going to go from the Bible. But congratulations on reading through the entire Bible if you've been following that plan. And if you need a daily Bible, we still have some. What's our habit number 2? Small groups, connection, fellowship. That's where church, as Joel always says, that's where church really happens. We have multiple small groups meeting. Now this coming week on Wednesday, of course, it'll be New Year's, and I don't believe the Wednesday groups will be meeting. Yes? Okay, Renee's is the prayer meeting at 11. On Wednesday morning. So what a beautiful way to start the year. If you would like to go at 11, right? Yes. New Year's Day at 11. If you want to join that fellowship group, that's wonderful. We'll be having some new groups starting, but be involved, be connected. Number 3, like and share. Go and share the good news. We can do that on digital, social media now, or we can share with friends and family. Number 4, call somebody, check on them. You know, the pastor can't do it all. The elders can't do it all. We all need to check on people. And if you don't see somebody or you're worried, call them. Say, hey, I missed you. We're thinking of you. And the last one we've added, anybody know what habit number 5 is? Exactly. You guys are so awesome. Share your name and get a name. We want to know each other. And if you're noticing, Lindsay put a lot of work into helping us get name tags to help those of us who can't remember. And we can do them for visitors, and make sure you don't take them home because, you just want to leave them here so they're here every week. But that's a way to help. There's the favorite word in everybody's vocabulary. You know what it is? We all have the same favorite word. Our name. That is everyone's favorite word. So use our names. All right, let's review what we've been doing. We've been doing a sermon series called A Church Prepared. A church prepared for what? For Jesus? Absolutely. A church prepared for anything. Here's some of the things that we've learned about. A church prepared for suffering and uncertainty. A church prepared to be in God's presence. A church prepared for ministry. A church prepared to preach. Every single one of us can preach. And sometimes if we have to, we use words. A church prepared for perfection. A church prepared for patient endurance. And last week we had a church prepared to celebrate. And what better time of year to celebrate than now? The theme that I heard through this whole series, though, that kept coming up for me was endurance. All of these things require endurance. And to me, every single one of these sermons that we've heard over the past few weeks and months, should I move this further away, up or down? Out more? Sorry, guys. All of it, to me, points to being prepared to go home. And that's what I want to talk about today. As we get to the end of the Bible, my favorite chapters in the Bible are Revelation 21 and 22. And you're going to get to read them this week. The most beautiful description of home anywhere, and what all of us are longing for. We are almost there, and we all have this deep longing for home. We think about home and we become emotional. There's lots of songs written about home. There's lots of movies written about home. All the Hallmark Christmas movies, what is it? It's about going home, right? All the songs. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. I'll be home for Christmas. All of those things. What is home? Home is where the heart is. I heard family. Is it an address? Is it where you live? Is it a building? Say again, Dick?
Wherever you make it.
Wherever you make it. I believe, well, I've lived in 3 countries, 7 states and provinces, 22 different homes, not counting dorms. And for the last 25 years, I've lived in Great Falls. So that mostly happened before that. That's a lot of moves. Where is home for me? People ask, where am I from? That's always hard to answer. I believe home is not where or what, but who. And God believes the same thing. Leviticus 26, 11 and 12 says, I will make my home among you and never turn away from you. I will walk among you and be your God, and you will be my people. Where is home? With God. Revelation 21, 3. And I heard a great voice coming from the throne saying, see, the home of God is with his people. He will live among them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them. Where is home? It's with God. Today's message is that Jesus is coming soon, and we are almost home. Revelation 22 says it 3 times. I am coming quickly. Behold, I am coming quickly. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me. And finally, in verse 20, surely I am coming quickly. Why are things repeated 3 times in the Bible? What's the significance of that? It's a divine number. It signifies importance. It says, wake up. It says, pay attention. It also signifies completion. Holy, holy, holy. I am coming quickly. It is a powerful message. But here's the challenge. How do we prepare to go home? What do we need to do? We do a lot of things to prepare for Christmas, right? We do a lot of things to prepare when our kids are coming home. We do a lot of things to prepare for being home. How do we prepare for this heavenly home with God? We're going to find some answers in Hebrews today. Hebrews 12 and 13. We're going backwards a little bit to find some of these answers. As I was getting ready in the morning a few weeks ago I listened to the Bible as I'm getting ready. And of course, we all know Hebrews 11 is the faith chapter, right? But immediately following in chapter 12, it struck me. These are all the instructions. This is the manual of how to prepare and how to be ready to get there. So that's what we're going to do today. But before we dive into that, I want to tell you a story. I grew up listening to my dad preach, and he never preached a sermon without telling stories. And every sermon he ever taught was about Jesus. But sometimes the thing I remembered was his stories. And this is a story that I remember him telling that I fell in love with and have continued to love. And some of you have heard it before, so I apologize if you do know this story. This story is about endurance. And remember that I told you that this whole series to me has kept repeating, we must endure. And this story is about endurance, the HMS Endurance to be specific, which is a ship. This ship was taken by Ernest Shackleton, who was a British explorer who had a goal of establishing a base on Antarctica and trekking across Antarctica on foot to the South Pole. He had tried many times. He'd worked very hard. And he put together a crew. And on December 5, 1914, as the rest of the world was engaged in World War I, Ernest Shackleton, with 27 men, 69 dogs, and 1 cat, left South Georgia Island on their expedition to reach the South Pole. Now, within 2 days, this picture shows what the whole expedition looked like, the whole ordeal, and we're gonna go through that just a little bit, and we'll come back to this. But within 2 days, they encountered pack ice. They had already reached the pack ice. And for the next almost 6 weeks, they hacked, go ahead and do the next slide. They hacked and plowed their way through the ice to persevere, to endure, to reach their goal. And they got within 1 day. They were within 1 sailing day of reaching their goal of landing on the shore of the Weddell Sea and starting their trek across. And then, January 18, now 1915, they got stuck in the ice. The winds shifted, the ice packed in around them. They could no longer move. They were immobilized. And they stayed stuck and immobilized for 10 months. 10 months stuck in the ice. The winds continued to push them north, further and further away from their goal. There was almost zero hope of rescue. There was nobody flying over, nobody coming to look for them, no ships traveling through. Anything they had was all they could have to survive. For 10 months, they were stuck in the ice until October 27, when finally the pressure of the ice started to crush that ship. Now, it took 25 more days, but eventually the HMS Endurance sunk. And during that time, they took everything that they could off that ship to help them survive, but again, with almost zero hope of rescue. They camped out on the ice, and they knew that they had to do something, so they attempted to walk across the ice to try to get back to the land of Antarctica. They knew within a few days that was absolutely impossible. It was far too difficult, far too treacherous. They were dragging their supplies. All they had was 3 small boats and anything they could carry off of that ship. They continued until April 9. That is a long time, just camped out on the ice. About 4 months, they just camped on the ice. Now, while they were camping, do you know that they actually played games? They actually had fun while they were, fighting for their lives. But on April 9, the ice started to break up. They had to do something. They launched their 3 little boats, and they set off for the closest place that they could get, which was Elephant Island, that little, where the red star is, just a little tiny island off the tip of Antarctica there. It took them 6 days going through unbelievable conditions to reach that little island. And finally, after 497 days, they set foot on dry land again. Barely alive. Struggling with delirium, dysentery, dehydration. The captain of the expedition, Captain Worsley, he hadn't slept in more than 80 hours. They didn't get there to a hot shower. They didn't get there to a warm bed. They didn't get there to stores. They got there to nothing, to desolation. They didn't really have much more chance of rescue, but at least they were not on the ice or on the sea anymore. After 9 days of recovery, Ernest Shackleton knew that if he didn't take action, they would all die. And so he launched with 5 other people, including Captain Worsley, one of their 3 ships. I would hardly call that a ship. It's a little lifeboat. It was called the James Caird, and they launched hoping to find help. And the other 22 men had to stay on Elephant Island. He left a man named Frank Wild in charge, and I'll get to that in a second. But it took 16 days going through unbelievable conditions for those 6 men in the James Caird. 6 days, over 800 miles, they reached South Georgia Island again, where they had started their original expedition. There was a small whaling station there and some people. But again, no cell phones, no satellite, no GPS, no ships passing by. That little whaling station was completely isolated. Now, when they landed on the wrong side of the island. Exactly. Oh, no. They were exhausted. Absolutely. I don't know how they were even still alive. Ernest Shackleton hiked across that island on uncharted, unmarked, he made it somehow to this whaling station. He knocked on the door and staggered in. Can you imagine? There's nobody there. These men had no reason to expect anyone to show up on their whaling station. And all he said was, "My name is Shackleton." It took him 3 attempts, 3 failed, and 4 attempts total, and 4 more months before they finally reached the men that were still on Elephant Island. But in the meantime, there was someone there named Frank Wild that Ernest Shackleton had left in charge. Back on Elephant Island, they made shelter by turning over, go ahead to the next slide, they turned over the 2 remaining boats and they created shelter for themselves. They called it the Snuggery. Well, that sounds cozy, but I cannot imagine anything cozy about this. 22 men who had not seen any kind of a shower or clean clothes for a year and a half, living in this shelter to survive. What did they eat? Well, we know on the day that they were rescued, they were just sitting down to a stew of boiled seal backbone. Does not that sound delicious? It sounds like survival to me. But on August 30, 1916, 1 year, 8 months, and 25 days from the time they left South Georgia Island, Ernest Shackleton returned and saved every single person. Not one person perished in this expedition. And it was documented by the photographer Frank Hurley. He had, this shows the whole loop. You can look it up if you want to. But Frank Hurley was the photographer, and he had an old-fashioned camera with glass plates that he was developing in a dark room that he was trying to keep above freezing on the ship. Now, when the ship sank, 600 of those glass plates went down, and he dove into the water and pulled them back up. Can you imagine how heavy that was and how treacherous just to save those 600 photography plates? But Ernest Shackleton told him, "Look, you cannot bring those." And he smashed them on the ice. He saved 100 that he thought were the most important pictures, and he had a small Kodak vest camera with 3 rolls of film, and that's where every one of these actual pictures of the expedition and the crew came from. That's the entire crew. Not one person was lost. And this is the most exciting thing to me. On March 9, 2022, using modern equipment and submersibles, they actually located the shipwreck. An incredible story of survival and endurance. What can we learn from this story, and why am I sharing this with you? Well, we can learn to never give up hope. We can learn to act. Go ahead with the next slide. Act as if today is the day, because I forgot a very important part. When they were back on Elephant Island and Frank Wild was in charge, every single day for 4 months, he told the men, "Lash up and stow your gear. Today could be the day. The boss may be coming today." Act as if today is the day. Work and play together. They had to rely on each other. They worked and they played together. Drop the unnecessary weight and endure. There couldn't be a more appropriate name for this ship than the Endurance. They endured until they were rescued. Now, when do you think they felt like they were home? When they saw Ernest Shackleton coming back? Do you think they knew that they were going to be home? Yeah. But this isn't about some trip to the Antarctic. This isn't about an exploration voyage. This is about our heavenly home. This is about Jesus is coming soon, and we are almost home. How should we prepare? How are we going to make it? How are we going to endure? This is where we're going to dive into Hebrews 12 and a little bit of 13, and we're going to look at 6 points from here. I could have taken so many more, but 6 is I think all you can endure today. So we're going to look at these 6 points. We're going to look at how to drop the extra weight. We're going to look at how to run with endurance. We're going to look at staying focused on Jesus. We're going to look at enduring God's discipline with rejoicing. We're going to look at pursuing peace with everyone. I appreciated what you shared about that, Cheryl. And most importantly, I believe we must keep on loving everyone as brothers and sisters. So let's go into each one of these just briefly. The first one, drop extra weight. Well, just like Frank Hurley He had to destroy and smash those precious glass plates on the ice if he wanted to survive, if he wanted to make it. We have to drop the extra weight. In Hebrews 12:1, it says this, "Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses," remember, we just finished Hebrews 11, the whole passage on faith and all the giants of faith. "Since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight." Oh yeah, there's a typo there, sorry. "Let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us." What is the weight that drags us down? It's sin. Anything that separates us from Him, anything that takes our focus off of Him, any sin that we are clinging to. Maybe it's our pride. Maybe it's our selfishness, our desire to be right, our envy, our jealousy, our bitterness. Whatever we're holding down onto is a weight dragging us down, and it's going to drag us right down to the bottom with that ship if we don't let go of it. We have to let go of it. We have to leave behind lying, everything that is weighing us down if we're going to be prepared to go home. Number 2, we have to run with endurance. There's that word again, that word. Endurance and run. We have to run with endurance. Again, Hebrews 12:1, the second part of the verse says, "And let us run with endurance the race that is set before us." I have a friend named Laura Lee, and she does mountain races and endurance races. She has done some incredible, like 24-hour races. I can't even fathom it. And I got to spend a week with her this fall. We went on a trip together, and we just went on a day hike. And this is how her mind works. In preparing for an endurance race like that, she strips off every unnecessary ounce of weight. She unwrapped, we packed a pack lunch. I had it in a brown paper sack. I put it in my backpack. I'm ready to go. She unpacks her whole lunch. She takes every extra wrapping off. She throws away anything she's not going to eat and puts it in a tiny little pocket in her lap belt. That's how she runs an endurance. She gets her mind prepared. She gets everything prepared. She lets go of all that extra weight. And guess what? She's done incredible things because she runs with endurance. She doesn't give up. She just keeps going through the dark, through the night. That's what we have to do. We have to run with endurance the race that is set before us. Number 3, we have to have a goal. We have to stay focused on Jesus. You can't run any race or reach any goals if you don't have a focus. Whatever we're focusing on is what we're going to find. Let's read Hebrews 12, verses 2 and 3. "Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him." Isn't that another way of saying focus on Jesus? Consider him, who endured such hostility from sinners against himself, lest you become weary and discouraged in your souls. Now, a little further on in Hebrews, it says, "Lift up your slack hanging arms and brace your weak knees." Well, weary and discouraged souls are going to look like that, right? How do we get past that? How do we not become weary and discouraged? If we think about what we're going through and all the hardships that we are facing, if those men on Elephant Island really focused on what was going on, there were men there that believed they would not survive, that they would never see Ernest Shackleton again, and that they would not be rescued. But what was Frank Wilde focusing on? Today could be the day. The boss may return today. What do we need to be focusing on? What Jesus has gone through for us, what he has already suffered and sacrificed so that we can be with him. We don't need to focus on what we're going through, on our hardships, on our trials. We need to focus on him and everything he's done, because that's what's going to get us to our goal. If we look at the rock that's in our way, we're going to hit it. If we look at the goal we're shooting for, we're going to make it. Jesus is what we have to focus on. Number 4, we must endure God's discipline with rejoicing. Now, this is a tough one. Goodness, who likes to be disciplined? Now, when we think of that, we think of punishment. We think of pain. We think of not good things. Nobody looks forward to this with rejoicing. But let's read Hebrews 12, verses 5 and 6. And I apologize, I'm going to get a quick drink of water. Thank you. Hebrews 12, 5 and 6 says, "And you have forgotten the exhortation," some passages say the proverb, that says, that speaks to you as to sons. "My son, do not despise the chastening of the Lord, nor be discouraged when you are rebuked by him. For whom the Lord loves, he chastens, and scourges every son whom he receives." Now imagine this. You're walking through Walmart, you see a stranger with their kid, and the kid is absolutely out of control. Totally out of control. Now, would you walk up to that stranger and discipline their child for them? You'd probably get arrested these days. You'd never think of doing that. But if your own child was misbehaving, would you discipline them? Yes, we discipline our children because we love them. Yes, it's true. We only discipline our children. God only disciplines his sons and daughters. And he does it because he loves us so much. And he knows that that's the way to get us on the path. So when we find ourselves being disciplined, when we find ourselves facing hardships, rejoice. We have to rejoice and realize that if we were not his sons and daughters, he would not be disciplining. We would not be going through this. We would not be going through this. There's quite a few verses on this in Hebrews, and the point is very, very clear that because we are his sons and daughters, we will be disciplined because that is a sign of his love. That's why we can rejoice when we are disciplined. Number 5, pursue peace with everyone. Hebrews 12:14 says, is it really just 10 to 12? Well, we're going to be done early, so that's all right. Pursue peace with everyone. Hebrews 12:14 says, pursue peace with all people and holiness, without which no one will see the Lord. This is very, very significant. Is there any other way to see the Lord? Without which there is no way. Now, does it say pursue peace with the people you like? Pursue peace with the ones that are easy to get along. Pursue peace with the people that are seeking peace from you. No. It says with all people. The ones who haven't asked your forgiveness, the ones that are difficult, the ones you don't like, the ones that have hurt and disappointed you, the ones you don't understand. All people. Now, it doesn't just say sit around and wait for it. What does it say? Pursue. That, to me, brings up a vision of a hunt. You are pursuing something. You are running after it. You are relentlessly going for what you want. You don't just sit back and wait for it to approach. We don't just take a passive role when we are pursuing peace. We pursue it with everyone and holiness, without which no one will see the Lord. And finally, number 6, we must keep on loving one another as brothers and sisters. Now, we're not talking about brothers and sisters the way it was when I was growing up. He looked at me. He touched me. He breathed on me. That's not what we're talking about. We are talking about brotherly love. Let's read now Hebrews 13:1. And I'm going to read this first from all these verses I've been reading, the New King James Version. It says, let brotherly love continue. And another version says, let love continue among you. Now, what kind of love are we talking about here? Well, I'm going to go back here to chapter 12, verse 10, and look at another. This is the same word of love that's used in these verses. It says, be kindly affectionate to one another with brotherly love. This is Philadelphia love. This is the brotherly love. in honor giving preference to one another. Now, how does Joel define love? Doing what's best for acting in the best interest of the beloved. That is what brotherly love is. Be kindly affectionate to one another with brotherly love, in honor giving preference to one another. When it says let brotherly love continue in Hebrews 13:1, it means acting in the other person's best interest, giving them preference, doing what's best for that person. Now that is not easy. Because what do we naturally want to do? We naturally want to look out for ourselves and do what's in our own best interest. That's what comes naturally to us. This is not a natural phenomenon. This takes divine, I believe, divine intervention, divine gift to be able to love one another with this kind of love. And this is what it's going to take to be prepared to go home. So our message today is that Jesus is coming soon, and we are almost home. Again, in Revelation 22, it says it 3 times in verses 7, in verse 12, and in verse 20. It says that I am coming quickly. I am coming quickly. And how do we prepare? Let's just review these things very quickly. Number 1, we're going to drop the extra weight. Number 2, we're going to run with endurance. Number 3, we must stay focused on Jesus. We have to have a clear goal. Number 4, we can endure God's discipline with rejoicing because it is a clear sign that we are his sons and daughters and he loves us so much. 5, we're going to pursue peace. We're going to run after peace with everyone. And finally, we're going to keep on loving one another as brothers and sisters. Now, here's the good news. No matter how long it is, no matter how difficult the wait, no matter what we must endure to get there, he will always be with us. He promises us throughout the Bible. And I just want to leave you with this verse from Deuteronomy 31, chapter 31, verses 6. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them. Who's them? Anyone. Anyone. For the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Even when we can't see him, even when we don't feel him, even when it doesn't seem that he's near or that he's actually coming very quickly. He is coming quickly, and he will never leave us. So what is the next step? Come. Come. Revelation 22:17 says, guess how many times? 3 times. Come. And the Spirit and the bride say, come. And let him who hears come. And let him who thirsts come. Whoever desires, let him take the water of life freely. Come home. Come to Jesus. Alex is going to sing a song, and if you know these it's 2 songs together, and if you know them, feel free to join us. We're going to sing it with you, and then we'll have a closing prayer.
How I long to breathe the air of heaven, where pain is gone and mercy fills the streets, to look upon the one who bled to save me and walk with him for all eternity. Oh, there will be a day when all will bow before him. There will be a day when death will be no more, standing face to face with he who died and rose again. Holy, holy is the Lord. And on that day we join the resurrection and stand beside the heroes of the faith. With one voice, 1,000 generations sing, worthy is the Lamb who was slain. And on that day, we join the resurrection and stand beside the heroes of the faith. With one voice, 1,000 generations sing, worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Forever he shall reign. So let it be today. We shout the hymn of heaven with angels and the saints. We raise a mighty roar. Glory to our God, who gave us life beyond the grave. Holy, holy is the Lord. So let it be today. We shout the hymn of heaven with angels and the saints. We raise a mighty roar. Glory to our God, who gave us life beyond the grave. Holy, holy is the Lord. Come, Jesus, come. We've been waiting so long for the day you return to heal every hurt and right every wrong. We need you right now. Come and turn this around. Deep down I know this world isn't home. Come, Jesus, come. Come, Jesus, come. We've been waiting so long for the day you return to heal every hurt and right every wrong. We need you right now. Come and turn this around. Deep down I know this world isn't home. Come, Jesus, come.
Please stand with me as we pray. Dear holy, precious Father, our hearts are overflowing with the immense gratitude at realizing how much you love us and what you have sacrificed to bring us home. Lord, we put ourselves completely in your care today. We place our lives in your hands to do with us as you will. Lord, use us and mold us and discipline us. Help us to endure and to rejoice through it all while we wait for you. Lord, help us to share this incredible good news and this message of hope with all of the people around us that are drowning and that are needing you. Lord, we are so grateful for your gifts to us, and we go forth with rejoicing in our hearts to share this message with a world that needs you. Bless us today, Lord, as we leave this place. In your holy, precious name, amen.